Now that the bell has gonged, we are officially into the RPG corner here at the Bell of Lost Souls. Welcome to Bowls RPGs. I'm JR, your friendly neighborhood Fungeon Master.
Hey, I'm Megan.
And we are the RPG team here at Bowls. We are here today to talk about what's going on in the world of role-playing games. There's a bunch of stuff happening. Most notably, this time next week, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, the big new D&D book, will be out and in your friendly local gaming store or on your digital platform of choice. If you live overseas in either the EU or the Asian and Pacific, I forget APAC's acronym completely, but it's over there. Your copy will be delayed by exactly 2 weeks physically, but the digital release is still steaming on ahead, and here in America, we're all getting it. This is, and we've seen more and more of this, and this is like a huge deal. This is, I don't want to say it's like 5.5 edition, which is what some folks are saying, but I do feel like this is like it's like getting a really big DLC for your game, because it adds not only a ton of like new subclasses and like options for you to pick when you're creating your character, it adds a lot of rules that change the way the game works.
Yeah, that's a really good way of phrasing it. Mm-hmm. I feel like you have kind of gone through, at this point, most of the book, just with early release stuff and stuff you've gotten a chance to take a look at. What are you most excited to implement in your own games?
I am very excited to implement the new sidekick rules. I love a good sidekick.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they're one of the best ways that you can like introduce all kinds of interesting character moments. One of my personal philosophies as a GM is that the world, even if it doesn't feel like it, the world should still revolve around the PCs. So. Mm-hmm. They're like having a sidekick that's there. You have like a great tool as someone that can like react to what the PCs are doing and be like, oh, that was so cool. You know, you have someone that can be a cheerleader or someone that can ask them questions like, well, what do you think about all of this? You know, and have it all be diegetic, which is super fun for me as a storytelling person.
Yeah, and that's also just like a good GM tool, is to have somebody who's not really a part of the game necessarily, but their job, it can be partially to kind of like help herd those cats.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Oh God, you need someone to just kind of remind them, hey, wait a minute, weren't we supposed to be looking for the Dragon Queen's lost orb?
A couple of weeks ago, my game, we made up a theme park on the moon and then spent an entire session at the theme park on the moon while the GM just quietly wept.
Hey, I mean, that sounds like a great session.
It was great.
I'm sure the GM was weeping for joy, because if I had players that wanted to go to a theme park on the moon that they had made up, that means that I don't have to do anything. All the prep work I did, I could just kind of like push it off and not have to do it for next week. However often you're playing.
He did manage to wrangle us back around to plot. He like put plot in the theme park.
Yeah.
And we did totally steal this concept from a Futurama joke.
Yeah, I'm going to build my own on the moon with blackjack and hookers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be good to have that one person who's there to be like, here it is, here's the plot. Get the plot.
And to kind of answer one of the comments from the chat, it's not exactly like the leadership cohorts. Mm-hmm. The leadership stuff was a lot more expansive. Sadly, they don't yet have rules for like they did in 3.5 and earlier editions, where you could get like a cool like high level follower following you around, and then also some additional like henchmen and hirelings. I know some folks were also hoping it would be a lot like they did in second edition, where once you got to a certain level, you could like build a wizard's tower or a fortress, and then you'd attract like, 50 level 1 fighters and 25 level 2 rogues or whatever, which is something that I think games should have all the time, because you get problems, you get people to solve them, or they come with their own problems. It's a little bit different than the leadership rules, but it's that's kind of on the right track. It's roughly the same idea. They handle it differently. If you're familiar with the 3.5 NPC classes, basically it's like you get one of those following you around. They're kind of designed to never outshine PCs, but always be useful in whatever they're doing, which is weird kind of when you think about it, because it's like, well, if we're level 20 and our henchman is also level 20, what is like, what does it mean? But games don't really reach level 20, so you don't have to think about it too hard. Sadly they don't. There's a ton of fun stuff like from level 11 to like 17 that I think most people miss out on. There's like a huge dead zone, and then occasionally you'll have people that are like, oh well, let's play a high level game and we'll make level 17 to 20 characters and we'll play that for like a one shot or however long, until the DM is like, ugh, it's hard to challenge high level PCs, and so content for high level stuff doesn't get made, which means people don't play it. So it's kind of a weird self-repeating vicious cycle. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
What are you excited about in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Megan?
I'm pretty excited about the reworked rules for stats, and how those aren't necessarily as tied to characters, the characters you've chosen races as much as they were before. I like that there's a little bit more wiggle room with that, so you can really make whatever the heck character you want, not that you necessarily couldn't before.
Right, but you don't have to be like, well, okay, if I'm gonna play a monk, my options are like human or elf,
exactly.
or I guess maybe some kind of half elf if I want to have a good charisma.
No, but, for sure. Or hope that your dice are very, very lucky. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's really cool. I think that might be the number one thing. I also really love a good sidekick, so I'm gonna piggyback on that one a little bit. And yeah, those are kind of my big ones.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. There's also a ton of GM tools that we haven't really seen much about. We know that they're going to include rules for supernatural regions, which is like, hey, here's what Ghostland is like, which is a very kind of like 4th edition concept, where they had like, here's what it's like when you're in a zone where the Shadowfell is or where the Feywild is. So it's like an evolution of that. So, 5th edition continues to be all the stuff that we wanted to do in 3rd edition and never got to, and all the stuff in 4th edition that we wanted to do and never got to, and now we're doing it differently. Which, I mean, that's what you do when you're making a game, I guess.
I mean, all of the stuff in there.
That's what I do. Let's see what else is going on in the world of D&D. Let's talk briefly about a book that came out. God, is it really 2 weeks ago now? It is. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like way longer. But 2 weeks ago, we were enjoying the release of Heroes Feast, a D&D cookbook. And here today to talk about what it's like is our very own TV's Mars.
Hey, so this week I have selected a couple of different recipes out of the book. We actually made our first one last night, which you can see the ingredients there. I really like this book. It's a good combination of lore, so all of the dishes are super appropriate for the races they choose to be with. Where like elves are more vegetarian with fish, you get the human recipes more with meats and hearty stews and that type of thing. And to go along with that, the recipes are actually really, really solid. There is a mix for just about everybody. They're vegetarian, fish-based, meat-based. There's a good amount of baked goods, and there's a variety that is good for every level of cook. So
very cool.
There's a lot of stuff that's really approachable, and there's some stuff that, like, if you're more experienced, that you can have a challenge with. So I really like this book. Last night we did one of the elf salads that turned out really yummy. So look forward to those probably next week. I've got 2 more that I'm doing this week. But yeah, I totally recommend picking up this book.
Excellent.
So, I'm going to pop back out, unless you've got questions.
Yeah, I guess one of my questions is
Yeah.
how, and I mean, I'm very enjoying this. How flavorful is the book? And by that I mean, like, how much are they like, oh well, these are D&D ingredients, but then they clarify and are like, this is what it actually, you know.
I wouldn't say it doesn't necessarily have D&D ingredients, but each of the recipes has this is, you know, the region that it's from, and this is the reason why things are cooked this way. There are full menus that you can do for an adventure if you want to. That includes kind of an appetizer, main, and dessert. But it's all very, very D&D. That flavor is definitely there along with the recipes.
Very cool. It's out. It's in stores right now. You can find it. Did you find it at our local game store, or was it from a bookstore? Or
we got it from our FLGS, but it is available in bookstores. Let me drop that link into the comments. There we go.
Yeah, it's incredibly cool. I love stuff like this. Back when, you know, we could all game in person without worry. I loved to like have like a, you know, we'd cook dinner, right, and then we would play. And this is a way to
it does make it very immersive.
Yeah, super immersive.
Yeah, there's lore in there about like different pubs and different parts of maps and that type of thing to really solidify these recipes into the world of the game.
Well, there you go. Heroes Feast, folks. Check it out. It's delicious. I would say, like, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, man, I should have had a bigger lunch.
Yeah, the next up we've got a chicken dish, and then I'm doing another vegetable dish to go along with something that is out of my recipe book. Ooh. So the other cool thing about this one is you can use these recipes for everyday stuff, which makes it a really nice, solid cookbook to have.
Very cool. Well, let's leave behind for a moment the world of Dungeons and Dragons and instead take a look at the world of like maybe next Tuesday, because one of the other big things going on in the RPG world right now is the upcoming release of Cyberpunk Red, which is, I believe, out on November 19th, so also next week. So I guess next Thursday. This is the version of Cyberpunk that will kind of bridge the gap between Cyberpunk 2020, which was the last edition of the game, more years ago than I'm sure anyone would care to admit, and Cyberpunk 2077, which is the world, of course, of CD Projekt Red's new, almost guaranteed to be a smash hit video game, featuring, but not starring, the one and only Keanu Reeves as Johnny Silverhand, which has been delayed to December, but it seems like this is the release date that they want to make stick. We've seen more and more previews from Cyberpunk Red, and it looks really cool. It looks like they are kind of addressing a lot of the core concepts of Cyberpunk and kind of re-examining them in some interesting ways. Because like we're in a very different place than we were in even the 90s with our relationship to technology. So like, you know, if you go back and read like Shadowrun or even Cyberpunk, like the ideas of like personal computers and how integrated those are were kind of going in the right direction, but like nobody could have predicted smartphones, right? No one could have seen the Internet of Things. I mean, you kind of had like the Internet of your gun in Shadowrun. I will give them that. Like your gun was Wi-Fi enabled and could be directly linked to your brain.
It has a simple point and kill interface.
Yeah, exactly. But this is looking to kind of re-examine it, and they've been doing some cool stuff about exploring like the humanity cost of different cyberware. I think there's kind of a new paradigm approaching that. It used to be like any piece of cyberware you got, you know, would kind of cost you humanity. So like if you had a data jack or, you know, neural interface thing, for those of you who haven't played like years and years of Shadowrun and Cyberpunk, if you had like a mind computer interface, that would cost you a little bit of your humanity. If you got like a replacement cyber arm, that would cost a lot more. But one of the big things around that is like it kind of it doesn't cast the best lights on people who already have, replacement limbs. So like they've said like the rules for prosthetics and stuff are going to be a lot different. Having a cyber arm is one thing. That's just a tool that we have, right? That's a part of being human. But when you make your arm also a shotgun, like that's when there starts to be a kind of hit to your humanity, because it's not just that you're replacing a part of your body with technology. Like that's cool. We do that all the time. We integrate technology into our life like day to day. I can't get away from this thing. I wish I could.
Sometimes, I mean, I know how bonkers Shadowrun and Cyberpunk is as a concept and as a game, but sometimes I'll hear sentences like that out loud and I'll think it's way weirder than I thought.
Yeah, right, exactly. So they're kind of like re-examining like what kind of cyberpunk, like what kind of cyberware has a cost to it, and like how do you limit someone from like becoming an unstoppable killing machine and going just absolutely slaughterhouse mad with it, which is kind of one of the themes, is like, some of these characters are basically living weapons, and that should have an effect. So yeah. I'm very excited to see what they're done. The folks at Artalsorian Games have been really knocking it out of the park lately. They're also the ones behind the Witcher RPG, which is a ton of fun. It captures, I'd say, the spirit of the show and the books a little more than it does the video game, but it's still very good. Worth checking out. That's coming up next week. Also in the news recently, D&D and Pathfinder put out big batches of errata for their games. Pathfinder 2nd edition is getting its second printing, which means they have taken this chance to update and clarify a lot of rules in the game. Alchemists in particular got some huge buffs. If you played a Pathfinder 2 Alchemist, you probably took Dangerous Alchemy as one of your like optional feats. They noticed that so many people have been taking it, in fact, that they have decided to just make it like an auto include, which is honestly what it should be for like warlocks who take the Agonizing Blast invocation, which lets you add your charisma to damage. I don't know a single person that doesn't take that.
Yeah.
On top of that, let's see what else was. Oh yeah, so there's a ton of changes to like the way certain like spellcasting stuff works in Pathfinder. They've upgraded and clarified a lot of the rules around some of the monstrous abilities. And then on the D&D side of things, they've released a batch of errata for both the Stormcoast Adventurer's Guide and Eberron Rising from the Last War, 2 books that have classes reprinted in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Now, you might be wondering, why would you reprint stuff in this one book? And it's because Adventurers League has like a rule of you can use the player's handbook plus one other source book to create a character. And this is kind of intended to be that plus one. It's also just so that if you want to have all of the stuff, you can have the player's handbook and you can have Tasha's Cauldron, and you have basically what you need to play to whatever you want.
How many people do you think actually follow that rule?
Well, if you're playing in the Adventurers League, everybody.
Well, yeah.
If not, nobody. Like, no,
Yeah,
I mean, some DMs might implement that as like a guideline. I know, but like nobody. Pull your character from 4 books.
Yes.
Which is what led to some of the big problems in the latter days of 3.5, where you could like just break the game by combining elements from source books that were never meant to be combined, or that people didn't think about how they would interact. But we have a lot less source books to work with. That's like Wizards learned the lesson of, well, if we just release less books, we can control what everything is and how it all interacts.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's do that, and so they have. That's why I think we see a lot more adventures than anything else right now.
I mean, honestly, it's a smart move.
Yeah,
and, it would help keep the general world under control, as opposed to just being, I don't know, this is bananas. Good luck.
Yeah. So speaking of Tasha's Cauldron, like join us next week for that. But speaking of adventures, I want to talk briefly about the Rime of the Frost Maiden. We got the Beadle and Grimm's Rime of the Frost Maiden special fancy platinum edition version box, and this thing is amazing.
It's cool as heck.
Beadle and Grimm's they make like luxury game kits. They basically put the time and effort into making an adventure amazing so that you don't have to. When I first started playing D&D, I had the good fortune to play with a DM who basically like this was all he did. Like he had a day job that let him like basically do whatever he wanted. So like he would, in between checking on servers to make sure they were still up, he would like make hand weathered maps, and like he would like tea stain paper and bake it in the oven. He would write out all the letters or paper that we would find in the game, and so like when we found something, he'd hand you a letter and be like, this is what you find. And that's like a cool moment. And so that's exactly what you get with the Beadle and Grimm stuff. All the handwritten notes that you can find in the game, because like, I don't know why, but games in general love for you to find stuff that other people have written down, whether you're finding like the notes of a lost mage, or you're finding the audio recording of someone who has decided to stop fleeing from an exploding space station and instead record a goodbye message. I
always wonder about those in games. I'm like, why now? What were you thinking?
Why now, right?
I feel like the Beadle and Grimm kit has kind of thought of everything, because it has all those notes, but it also has all of the maps, just all of the maps that you possibly want. Jewelry, which is just cool to hand out at the table. And like everything is really nice quality. I was lucky enough to be in the office when it actually got delivered, so I kind of got to go through it a little bit. And like it's all of like the faux leathery maps. It's really cool. It's just good art pieces.
It's super high quality stuff. It is expensive, like, but it's worth it. Like, it's more than just the adventure. But I mean, look at the quality of stuff you get. Like that's something that like you don't just, even if you do have unlimited time, you can't just like easily go and make some custom jewelry for your next campaign. So if you have like these sell out, they always sell out like well before they ship. Like the platinum edition of Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, is already sold out. You can still get yourself a silver edition, which I don't think comes with as much jewelry, or it doesn't come with the custom pre-painted miniatures. It's still good. Like you'll still get maps, you'll still get letters, you'll still get handouts, you'll still have all the like cool campaign aids. But if you are thinking about one for your next campaign, like they are absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. So whatever adventure is coming after this, which we'll find out probably in January and get excited for in March, you'll want to get in on that while the getting's good.
Yeah, I would love to play with this set, like actually sit down and play a couple of sessions with it. So maybe when hanging out with other people is safe again.
Right? I mean, once we're all like back in the office campaign of Icewind Dale on the side,
super fun.
That I think is all of the news from us to you today. We will, of course, as always, be back next week. We'll be back on Tuesday though, so come join us then. And you can also check out our other cool, fun hangout streaming times. You can find Goat Boy Paints on Twitch Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central Time. You can join Dragon's Lair and us to see what's new in the tabletop world for the Tabletop Spotlight Fridays at 3 p.m., where you can find like what's coming out this weekend. If you want to take a preview and see it for yourself, it's a great time. Dragon Slayer joins Adam to bring you that. Then on Mondays, come back and see everything new in the world of tabletop wargaming for the Wargame Show, where we'll probably still be talking about Necrons and Space Marines. And that's everything. So we'll see you next time with our copy of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and probably some other stuff too.
Probably.
Yeah. Bye.
See ya.